Welcome, acolytes. Another Shotvet Otaku one, or from Ace. Let's just say it like that. Why Shotvet Otaku? The fascist is defending communism. I mean, that's pretty hefty proclamations here, calling him fascist. I wouldn't even say he's wrong per se, but if you don't have a 100% guaranteed proof, please don't call anyone fascist or something like that. That's a tactic of the left. Don't do it. But hey, I can't even disagree on this one. So, the title already pretty. And this guy, by the way, fair enough. Let's just start.
Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk a little bit more about Short Fat Otaku, who has decided to double down on his take that we shouldn't expect an open communist to do communist things, an argument that Dev has taken up in defense of the communists that recently won the Democratic primary for the mayor of New York City. So yeah, Dev has taken up the position that because this candidate hasn't had the opportunity to actually do anything yet, that we shouldn't expect this communist to do communist things. A standard that Dev, by the record, does not hold himself to when it comes to judging people such as Donald Trump or JD Vance.
Yes, that's true. And second of all, no, the thing is, I have a love-hate relationship with that candidate because on the one hand, I despise him and would never take him, but I like that he is a bit unpredictable and unhinged. That's something that we actually need. But I would never pick him because of his communist or thingy-the-bob left-leaning thinking. That's very, very self-destructive. Never take those. And you cannot say that somebody that goes around and screams and says, yeah, I'm gonna bring this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. I think that this is correct, that this person won't do those things. Come on, you're smarter than that. Well, maybe Dev isn't, but you know.
Because Dev has also, rather ironically enough, recently got caught accusing JD Vance of being a future tyrant, even though by Dev's own admission in that particular thread that he can't actually cite any of JD Vance's actions up to this point. You know, the standard that Dev insists everyone else follow when it comes to an open communist and whether or not that open communist will do communist things. But of course, I already covered all of that in my previous video, so why am I bringing it up again? Well, like I said, this is an update video, as more has indeed happened, and Dev has chosen to double down. Firstly, he responds to the critique that people have pointed out, that Dev openly admitted that he couldn't cite anything in the thread that JD Vance has actually done, and Dev's response to this critique is, quote, "No, Vance has already done evil things. In fact, he directly confirmed he would pardon Trump before he even took office, which is already beyond the pale." Take note that Dev says that Vance has already done evil things, but fails to mention anything that he has actually done, and can only at best provide something that he has said he would do. Not exactly the effective counter that Dev...
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't even know how Vance is actually... The thing is, it's just... I mean, you can expect certain things, I would agree. If it quacks like a duck, speaks like a duck, walks like a duck, it is a duck, but at the end, nothing happened. So shut the fuck up.
Dev thinks
Honestly,
it is, which is why unassuming Apple points it out by stating, quote, "That's something he said he'd do, not something he did, but then honesty isn't really your strong suit, is it?" To which Dev responds by stating, quote, "Did the socialist candidate say, I will come and take all of your property? What's the likelihood of the mayor of NYC actually doing that? Versus..."
For fucks, this is... Yes, a socialist will go for and come for property, so they... No, I'm not gonna be angry about this because... No, fuck it. This is bullshit. Of course they come for your property, they're coming for your freedoms, they're coming for your fucking life, and you're standing here and being like, yeah, he won't do it. Yeah, you're stupid. If you think that, you're just stupid.
the
Bollocks.
VP actually doing that. Additionally, you're still not peddling the Cali illegal stole 8 seats shit, are you? Unassuming Apple then responds by stating, quote, okay, so you're fine with communism as long as it's only New York City that's communist, as if that doesn't have terrible aesthetic connotations. I accepted your reasoning for why J6 was worse than other riots preceding it for aesthetic considerations, but maybe I shouldn't have. Dev responds by stating, quote, no, reread what I said. Unassuming Apple responds by stating, quote, what's the likelihood of the mayor of New York doing that? As part of a rhetorical argument to minimize the impact of this necessitates the underlying logic that it isn't a high likelihood, which is you saying it's not a big deal if a communist takes over NYC. Dev responds by stating, quote, if a communist takes over NYC and does zero communism, no, I don't care. Just like how I wouldn't care if Trump didn't act on his false beliefs on Jan 6. Unassuming Apple responds by stating, quote, bullshit, Vance hasn't done shit and you're already prejudging him. This isn't the position you actually believe in, you're just lying in order to cover for other lies. Now naturally, Dev has received a fair amount of heat over this particular take of his, and he has also decided, therefore, to provide a quote tweet to offer his official statement on the matter, where he says, quote, yes, the new mayor of NYC is a retarded communist. Yes, things would have been better off if a liberal had taken that position instead. But if you think that he's going to start collectivizing property and turning NYC into a commune, you're more retarded than he is. In response to this particular quote tweet, Sai asked, quote, can you elaborate? Like, do you think he doesn't want to do that, or he doesn't have the power to, or what? To which Dev responds by stating, quote, doesn't have the power to. And if he tried to overstep his bounds, he should be forcefully removed from office. So yeah, even Dev has to ultimately admit that this particular candidate, if he were to get in power, would absolutely try to do communist things. It's just that Dev is using the defense of the system is going to protect us.
Dev just doesn't know how power works. This is freaking disgusting. No, if he gets the power to actually do stuff and just creeps in step by step and actually can, what's particularly easy by the way, just can tell the other people that have power that they can profit more if they do exactly what he wants, then guess what? He can do all of those things. No, if somebody's already corrupted, you don't let them any kind of power. Because why? The chances of them actually building up this corruption and then just being here and doing bad stuff is basically 100%.
And the system, don't you know, is completely perfect and cannot be subverted. Because Dev, once again channeling Mussolini with both his politics and receding hairline, believes the state is God. And for all of Dev's talk, of course, about the system will prosecute corruption and abuses of power, and that he supports the system doing so, well, I do feel the need to point out examples of blatant corruption within the system that Dev has defended. Ruby Ridge being one such example, where even the government had to admit that it royally fucked up. To the tune that the actions of the Weaver household at that point were actions of legitimate self-defense, which Dev still condemns to this day. But that is only one of the major critiques I can offer as to how Dev is just blatantly defending communism at this point. Another major critique I can provide can be best described by Dev's own words in one of his older videos, specifically the Socialism is Subversive video from a few years back, where he had this to say.
It's not just public figures. There's also a specific type of boiling the frog in all socialist speech. I've had this exact same conversation with like a dozen online crypto socialists now. And the next time you see this, you should try it too. Maybe you're talking to a libertarian socialist or a democratic socialist, or maybe you're talking to somebody who outwardly identifies as a social democrat, but they're advocating quite strongly for one topic. Maybe it's universal healthcare, maybe it's universal worker co-ops, or blanket free college, or something like that. And inevitably, if you ask them about what their politics looks like after they've implemented this thing they're talking about, they'll almost always say something like, well, that's a good first step. But then you gotta ask, what's the second step? What's the third step? Where's the point when you say, okay, here is good. There's no reason to go any further than this. This example on screen right now is one of many who advocate for something small and unassuming, but his next steps are a stateless, moneyless, classless society, making him not a sockdem or a socialist, but a communist. And in fact, when I point this out in our conversation, he suddenly becomes a lot less friendly. Your politics are not what you advocate for right now, but what your ideal end state is after all of the right nows have been accomplished. This is why, for example, when Shuon Head said, "I'm not a socialist because I like socialism, but it's not feasible right now," she's actually a socialist. And maybe it's just me and my sensibilities, but hiding your power level like that seems subversive as fuck.
So yes, Dev has went from openly admitting in the past that communism is a fundamentally subversive ideology, and that communists will, as a standard tactic, engage in boiling the frog, with lines like, that's a step in the right direction. And more importantly, Dev also admitted that what you should actually care about is what their end goal is. Dev has went from that to taking up the position that we should not expect a communist to do communist things, and that we should only judge the ideology for the current day policies. You can very quickly see the issue here, considering that Dev has openly admitted that the
entire thing is pretty simple. I mean, Dev himself actually explained it on point. Yes, this is how you actually get this entire thing rolling. You don't show your extreme thinking instantly, you boil slowly, and then just go step by step so they don't defend themselves. Yes, simple math. And yet, somehow, he still goes and just doesn't effing understand that the position he's in is exactly the same fucking thing. How? I mean, I understand because everybody does mistakes, everybody makes mistakes, everybody overlooks things sometimes. I mean, I am not innocent with that one, but after you actually got proven wrong, just own it. Just be like, okay, good, fair enough. Don't be a pirate software. Be a normal human being. And try to bury your ego and try to actually go out and correct the mistakes you made. Honestly, it's not that hard. It's really not that hard to actually just say, okay, I fucked up. Your ego will regenerate after a while. It's very simple. It's really not that damaging. It's just a temporary open wound that will regenerate easily. It's just, in my opinion, so easy. But hey, I guess not everybody can do it.
This is how communism operates. It can only be reasonably deduced that he is actively helping facilitate this subversion. He is very much self-aware of what he's doing, and the reason is because he supports a lot of the same end goals. Now, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. Dev is not actually a communist himself, but he does, like I said, support a lot of the...
If you argue for this, if you argue for communism and socialism, I don't care if you call yourself a freaking socialist or communist. You are. Point. If you're arguing for it, you are this exact thing. Point. I don't care. I don't care if you call yourself that. I don't care if the definition is here. If you argue for murderers, you are a murderer. Simple as that. Because the end result is the exact same. You are positively enforcing this, what will freaking harm everybody. And I don't care if you are the thing, you are still a danger to me. You should be neutralized the exact same way as the other thing.
Same goals. People are correct, however, in assuming that he is a socialist. He's just a different kind of socialist. Specifically, Short Fat Otaku, aka Dev, at this point, is a fascist, which is to say an actual dyed-in-the-wool fascist, not the progressive definition of fascism, which apparently means free speech and individual rights. What I mean by fascist is that Dev supports the social control of the means of production in the name of the state, an individual who believes the government is God. god, who supports the notion of everything within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Oh sure, Dev might say that he's just a liberal that supports the nanny state, but in truth he rejects liberal ideals when it comes down to it. And he has openly stated that he would prefer fascism, as well as admittedly communism, to a failed society. A failed society in his eyes being demonstrated by what can be found right now in liberal TM-run cities. Now granted, Dev tries to argue that that's just libertarianism, bro, that he's against. But those cities getting overrun by drug addicts, well, a key component to that is the welfare system that enables them to just sit on their ass taking drugs all day, which is not a product of libertarianism. In a legitimately libertarian society, the cold hard truth is that those drug addicts would starve to death before they become an actual long-term problem within the city. It is very specifically a product of the liberal TM politicians, which Dev supports. But when those policies fail, he prefers openly socialist ideologies such as communism or fascism over that. Remember, your politics are not where you are right now, it's what your end goals are. And Dev's end goal, whether he wants to admit it or not, is socialism as far as his policies are concerned. He wants to try the fake liberal TM policies, watch those fake liberal TM policies fall flat on their face, claim the society has failed as a direct result, and then will take up the position that even fascism is superior to what he has now. You know, his liberal TM society, which he up to that point pretended to be a champion of.
Yeah, fair enough, by the way.
This Minecraft YouTube...
What the F, man.
Hello everyone.
This is just another dev thing. I just don't get it. I just cannot get it. What the fuck went wrong to this degree? I mean, for F's sake. He gets disproven, argued against, and just on point points that just disprove his thing, and he still just doesn't freaking accept it. Out of pure ego. Hey, it is what it is, I guess. But Ace, again, very well made video. This is what it is. Good night, Acolytes.